Mr. President, with your permission, I would like to announce that, as a consequence of the evolution of the two fires, and that, in a short time, the San Martín de Valdeigorcias area is also expected to converge, I have decided, and I have communicated to the President, my decision to create the unified command of the emergency. That is, we will work not in two sectors, the Madrid sector and the Avila sector, but we will work as a single sector, dealing with this catastrophe, dealing with this fire as one. It is the best way to manage and to gain time. I always say that time can be the best ally or the worst enemy. We have to make it the best ally, and this decision will undoubtedly contribute to the effectiveness, management, coordination, and agility of all the decisions we make.
Well, thank you very much, General. And as I have always said in all the appearances throughout this year, in which, unfortunately, we are suffering these fires, I want to thank the media for their work, because it is very important, at a time like this, that citizens receive the truthful information for their safety, for their tranquility, and to have all the necessary knowledge to be able to respond with the agility to which the General of the UMIA referred before. So, first of all, thanks to the media for fighting against misinformation and for truthfully informing citizens of the affected areas. And that is also one of the requests I make to the media and also to the citizens who are watching this appearance, that they always be informed through media, public institutions, media contrasted to know exactly the evolution of these emergencies, which unfortunately, with this summer and these high temperatures, are exacerbated and, therefore, are affecting a good part of the Iberian Peninsula and, in particular, our country. Secondly, I would like to convey to the neighbors of the affected areas that our priority, our thought, our goal is in their lives, in safeguarding their lives, in defending the population centers, as the UMEA often repeats, and finally, in fighting against fires. Therefore, I also want citizens to know that the whole state, and when I speak of the whole state, I am not only referring to the general administration of the state, but also to the affected autonomous communities, the provincial deputies in the case of Castilla y León, and finally, also the municipalities, are making available all the resources at their disposal to effectively produce, in a safe way, all that logistics, all that shelter to the evacuees. We are talking about thousands of evacuees, and also others confined in their municipalities. Thirdly, as you know, since Friday, the Spanish government, at the request of the two autonomous communities, of the Autonomous Community of Madrid and also of the City Council, of Castilla y León, moved to an operational situation 3, and in virtue of Article 30 of the Law of the National Civil Protection System, we began to lead the response to these different fires that, as the General of the UME has said before, are now a single fire, and therefore have a unified system of response, which, of course, has not only acceptance, but also all the support from the National Civil Protection System, led, in this case, also by the Ministry of the Interior, and also, logically, by the Secretary-General of the National Civil Protection System. This, as General Marcos often reminds us, we are talking, first of all, about agility in the response. Second, about coordination of all the resources that are being made available. I think I remember, Secretary General, there are already 10 autonomous communities that are making available resources from their communities for the response to this single fire, in Avila and, of course, in the community of Madrid, and also, evidently, everything that has to do with the European Civil Protection System, where today the arrival of resources from Greece and Italy is expected, in addition to a request that has been accepted by, logically, the COP, of a displacement of more than 100 units of the Portuguese army to face the fire in the province of Avila. Therefore, what I mean by this is that agility, of course, coordination and efficiency in the response, as General Marcos often tells us, as I said before, because it is true that right now we have a window of opportunity during this weekend to fight against the fire and, therefore, to protect lives, to protect population centers, and ultimately, to be able to control, as far as we can, this very serious fire. And a reflection that I will never get tired of saying. Before, I would also like to convey to the media and to the citizens that the situation is still complex, that the forecasts that we have, both from the EMED and also from the CSEC, which is helping us, and of course also from experts in fires, is that we are going to have complex hours, because, indeed, the temperatures have dropped, but we do not know exactly what the wind will be, its intensity, and whether or not dry storms will occur as a consequence of these fires. But what is true is that we have a window of opportunity during this weekend to fight against the fire, and therefore that is what we are going to dedicate and allocate a good part of our resources. And one last reflection that I would like to make to the citizens who, evidently, live in Madrid, in Avila, or in any of the places where fires are currently occurring. I am convinced that they are becoming more assimilated and assumed, and I am also convinced by those in charge of public institutions. In what we have been doing for years, as it has just been translated to us in the SECOC of the Ministry of Ecological Transition, in what we have been doing for years, more than 130,000 hectares have been burned. 130,000 hectares. This figure, perhaps, for the citizens who are watching us, does not mean much or little. They do not know exactly how to size it. But if we compare it with the average that, during this last decade, has been lost annually in Spain, which has been 100,000 hectares per year on average in what we have been doing for decades. If we have 130,000 hectares in what we have been doing for years, and we still have a good part of the summer and, logically, other months, such as the month of September, so critical in our history in relation to fires, we will be seeing that each time the climate emergency is getting worse, it is, unfortunately, surpassing many of the scientific forecasts, and that requires not only to increase the capacities in response when those climate emergencies actually occur, as is the case, but also in the prevention and also awareness work to citizens and public institutions. I think it is very important that all public institutions pay attention to science, and that public institutions, as I have asked repeatedly since last year, where, unfortunately, also in a summer like this, we suffer great fires, great losses of biodiversity, and also, logically, recently in Almeria, losses of human lives, that we all make possible an agreement, a state pact against the climate emergency, because, unfortunately, science, if it tells us something, it is that those temperatures, these climatological phenomena, are increasingly intense, increasingly serious, increasingly have a greater impact on our biodiversity and in the day-to-day of many citizens, regardless of where they live. And, of course, this also requires a greater turn of economic resources, of human resources, in short, of operational capacities, which, unfortunately, evidently, on many occasions, are not enough to guarantee the life and conservation of our biodiversity. And one last point, and it is that, indeed, today we are in the fight and in the extinction of the fire, but, logically, from the Spanish government, as we have always done, we are also prepared to support the municipalities, the towns, the provincial deputies, and the autonomous communities in the reconstruction and recovery of the areas that, unfortunately, are being affected as a consequence of these fires. And for my part, nothing more. And again, I thank from the heart the media that fight against misinformation, with data and informing the citizens with the information they deserve for their safety and for their tranquility.